Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I had a whole bunch of people send me this story, and I also saw it widely reported places like Jalopnik and so on. And I've encountered this issue many times in my career, practicing law now for 34, 35 years. I'm into my 35th year now. And so I've had a lot of phone calls over those years from people who said, Steve, I hired someone to do work on a classic car. They took money from me. They've got my car. And either they're not doing the work, or I think they're ripping me off, or they've disappeared, or my car has disappeared. And these kinds of things happen in this world. So here's a story out of the state of New York, in a town called Macedon. Macedon business owner involved in classic car scheme going to prison for $2.5 million wire fraud. And this is directly from the press release from the Justice Department, justice.gov. And the press release actually came out a little over a month ago, but this is the first time I've talked about this story, although I've done stories similar to this. But a U.S. attorney announced that a gentleman who's 51 years old out of Cape Coral, Florida, was convicted of wire fraud and has been sentenced to serve 24 months in prison by a U.S. district judge. The attorney who handled the case for the government stated the man was the owner of a car repair company that specialized in classic cars, in the restoration and sale of antique vehicles in Macedon, New York. It is not uncommon for such restoration work and the collection of authentic parts to take place over the course of years. And many of this man's customers were long distance or international. That is extremely common. You got some weird old car. There's only a few of them left on the planet. And some guy goes, yes, I can fix that for you. But it's going to take me a while to track down the parts. So ship the car over to me. I'll put it in my garage. I'll start tracking down those parts. You got to give me some money to get started. And as I find the parts, I'll do the work. But I can't find the parts immediately. And you don't want me, by the way, paying top dollar for parts if I can get them cheaper. So I'm going to really, really dig into this, okay? As a result, customers often relied on his assurances of what work was being done without seeing the work in person before paying him. And I know people who said, hey, Steve, I dropped my car off at this place, haven't heard from the guy in a year. I went by there because he stopped returning my phone calls, and the place is cleaned out and empty. I don't even know where my car is. So, if it's not local and you're not going to be able to check up on the guy from time to time, what assurances do you have? So between 2018 and April of 2022, they say the man made misrepresentations to customers, many via email and text message, about work and acquisitions he claimed to have completed to obtain money from these customers. And, nowadays, if you've got someone's cell phone and you can text them, they're seeing your texts. In the old days where somebody just had a phone on the wall and you call and it just rings because they haven't got a secretary or a receptionist, you're not sure. Like maybe the guy's not there. Maybe he keeps weird hours. Maybe he's out hunting down parts for my car. Okay? So now, of course, if you got his cell phone number and you're texting him and he's not returning your texts, that might be an indication you've got trouble. His intent, they say, was to obtain money for unfinished work he claimed was finished and to stall his clients so he had enough time to complete the work. And so I've mentioned before that oftentimes these situations or people who do like home improvements, sometimes there are unscrupulous people in the field where they take cash from one customer and say, you're going to pay me some money up front. I'll start doing the work, but I need that money to get started. And then as I go along, you'll pay me more money. And then eventually I'll finish the work you pay me and I'm done. And there are people out there who will start several jobs at the same time and spend too much money from one job to complete it. But what they'll do is they'll tell themselves, I'll take the money from the second job to pay for the first job. And next thing you know, I'll take the money from the fourth job to pay the second job. And they used to refer to those as a robbing Peter to pay Paul scheme. And of course, that is also akin to a Ponzi scheme. But it's not quite a Ponzi scheme in that sense, because you're not investing money here. You are simply paying someone to do work and to buy parts. So they say, for example, in 2019, the man falsely claimed over text message and email to a victim that he had completed work on an engine for a Duesenberg, and he emailed the victim an invoice for $25,000. So the victim wired the funds to the bank accounts controlled by this man. In addition, he sent emails to another victim overstating how much work had been completed on a 1964 Porsche in order to obtain payment for work he had not done, but intended to complete in the future. Now, here's the thing. If I tell you, pay me some money so I can do work in the future, that's one thing. If I say, pay me some money for work I've already done, but in my mind I'm thinking, but I'll do it as soon as I get the money, that crosses a line, and I'm sure you see that. So during the course of the scheme, they say he defrauded victims of a total of approximately $2.5 million. In fact, they broke it down to the penny. $2,536,308.64. Of course, nowadays you'd round it up to 65, right? The sentencing is a result of an investigation by the FBI under the direction of a special agent in charge. Now, I did go and pull the earlier press release that described the man being arrested because it had a little bit more detail. So they talk about the victim who lives in Pennsylvania, who paid the man to purchase or restore numerous vehicles on his behalf, but eventually became aware of instances in which the man lied about work done on vehicles and what was purchased in order to obtain money, including that 1932 Duesenberg in question here. And then also they say another victim was from Canada, and the Canadian victim paid this man to acquire and or restore 6 rare and high-value antique automobiles in exchange for payments totaling $374,000. That's one person. And that victim is the one who had the 1964 Porsche 356C, and the man says he never got that. He paid for it, he says, but he never got one. And then there was another victim who lived in the UK and France who entered into an agreement with this man to restore a 1926 Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost he had purchased from an acquaintance of this man. And by December of 21, this victim became suspicious that work was not being performed properly and requested verification, at which time he became unresponsive. So later, the victim hired a private investigator and an attorney who were able to locate the Rolls-Royce. However, very little restoration work had been done. So they found the car, but the work hadn't been done. So the man then had to make an initial appearance in front of a magistrate, and things proceeded as they did, and they got to the point where he wound up being sentenced to prison for 24 months, and he was convicted of wire fraud. And so that's another thing you got to remember, is that if I walk up to you and you rip me off face to face and we're standing in Macedon, New York, chances are that's a state crime. But if I say to you, hey, wire me some money, the use of the wires or the U.S. Postal Service, or pretty much any time the stuff crosses state lines or international boundaries, it's going to invoke some kind of federal statutes. And that's what they got going here. And so the number of times, like I said, in my career, I've actually represented people in cases like this. And I stopped because for the most part, they're a nightmare. Because number one, even when you win, you can't collect because these people often don't have a lot of money, as you might imagine. Number two, they're often kind of hard to nail down. As you'll notice, they say that the man was of Florida, yet his shop was in New York. And so it's not uncommon that someone like that might go, you know, things are getting a little hot up there in New York. I think I'll stay down here in Florida where it's nice and cool. Ironically, you might think people go to Florida because it's warm down there and cool up here. But no. We're talking about when the heat is on, like in that song. So I've had so many of these stories where people call me, and cases I have taken, cases I haven't taken. And I mean, I find them heartbreaking because I've had someone call me and say, Steve, I have this vehicle that I bought years ago. And they often have a story attached to it. My dad found this vehicle and wanted to restore it, and he passed away. Or, you know, my dad had a car just like this, and I want to do this in honor of him, that kind of thing. And I did a ton of research. And everybody recommended this one guy This one guy specializes in these cars, these motorcycles, these whatever it might be. And what's unusual is that quite often there are people who are well known in these communities as the person to go to who knows everything about these cars or vehicles, whatever it might be. And the scary part is that someone who's an expert in something, like a car, might not be good at running a business. And in fact, it might not even be a business that can support the guy. The guy might want to run a business where he's a specialist in some bizarre car that nobody else knows anything about. But it might not be enough to keep him going as just a specialist in that. And one of the worst stories that I ever heard was a guy who said he brought the vehicle to somebody after doing a ton of research, and everybody said, this is the guy, this is the guy. So he takes his vehicle to the guy, and he gives the guy some money, and the guy does a little tiny bit of work. He's sending him pictures. I found this part here, I found this part here. And then he goes quiet. He goes quiet. And so finally, the customer gets a little upset because he can't get any response. And he drives by the guy's shop, and he looks in the window, and the place is cleaned out. The guy's vanished along with all the cars. And the person I spoke to said, mine wasn't the only car there. I have no idea where the guy went. And it's possible, and this is where you start getting into nightmare material, it's possible that the guy just didn't pay rent on the building and skedaddled. I don't know who owns these vehicles. This stuff is now all abandoned. That's what's possible. That's what's possible. So, like I said, I've gotten that phone call so many times that I hate to even think about it, because when someone brings that story to me and says, I can prove all of the above, assume these facts are true. Okay, where is the guy? Don't know. What's the guy's legal name? Not quite sure. What was the name of his business? Well, he had me make the checks out to him. Okay. To sue somebody, we got to find him. And like I said, what if the guy skedaddled to Florida or Arizona or Guam? I mean, and so it's sad. It's very, very sad. So if you have a classic car that needs to have work done, you need to do a lot of research. And one thing you got to be very careful about is when you do research and you find discussion boards and Reddit threads that all say, hey, this one guy's the best. This one guy's the best. Unless you know the people making those posts, how do you know any of that's true? But number two, unfortunately, there are people out there who are doing really, really well in business. And for whatever reason, their business tanks. And if you come along right around the point where it tanks, all the best recommendations in the world might not help you there, because it might be that the guy used to be the best, but he's not anymore. So you got to be very, very careful. It is a world fraught with peril. But like I said, the story actually broke at the end of last year, but this happens so often. But here the case is the guy is from Macedon, New York, business owner involved in classic car scheme. He's going to prison for 2 years, federal prison, for $2.5 million in wire fraud. And that is from a press release directly from the Justice Department at justice.gov. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball.